Welcome to another episode of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss science fiction, fantasy, cooking, the outdoors, and more. The producers of Rust knew that firearm safety procedures weren't being followed on set and demonstrated a, quote, plain indifference, unquote, to the welfare of cast and crew, according to a New Mexico safety agency. The New Mexico Environment Department's Occupational Health and Safety Bureau found numerous violations of safety protocols, including the introduction of live ammunition onto the set and a failure to train crew on how to properly handle firearms. It issued the highest level citation and maximum fine allowable under state law of nearly $137,000. The report stated that Rust Movie Productions ignored, quote, the hazards associated with firearms by routinely failing to practice their own safety protocols, failing to enforce adherence to safety protocols, and failing to ensure that the handling of deadly weapons was afforded the time and effort needed to keep the cast and crews safe. Additionally, the employer disregarded or otherwise did not follow up, ask questions, or try to understand what happened when employees notified management about the misfire incidents and not feeling safe on set, unquote. The investigation concerns the fatal shooting in October 2021 on the set of Rust that killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins and wounded director Joel Sousa. The agency concluded that there was a, quote, serious violation, unquote, of the New Mexico Occupational Health and Safety Act. Rust Management implemented its own safety procedures taken from the industry-wide Labor Management Safety Committee. One of the rules stated that live ammunition is never to be introduced. Quote, Rust did not develop a process to ensure live rounds were not brought onto set, including failing to afford the armorer time to thoroughly inventory ammunition, unquote, the agency found. Other violations included protocols stating that no one can use firearms that they're not trained to use, mandating safety meetings before scenes involving guns, and not to point a weapon at anyone. The report detailed 2 previous incidents in which firearms accidentally went off. The first misfire, which happened on October 16th, less than a week before the fatal shooting, occurred when props maker Sarah Zachary inadvertently fired a blank round as she finished loading a .45 caliber revolver that was aimed at the ground. The second involved the stunt double for Alec Baldwin, who said the gun, quote, just went off, unquote. Just a day before Hutchins was killed, first camera assistant Lane Looper resigned, citing safety concerns. In an email, Looper wrote, quote, during the filming of gunfights on this job, things are often played very fast and loose. To be clear, there are no safety meetings these days. There have been no explanations as to what to expect for these shots, unquote. OHSB found that Rust Management ignored the red flags raised by the firearm misfires and concerned cast. The report also concluded that armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed was spread too thin. In accordance with industry-recognized safety practices, the armorer is required to be present whenever firearms are being handled and should have the authority to determine whether an individual requires additional safety training. But Gutierrez-Reed also had to perform the role of props assistant when firearms weren't in active use. She was told by line producer Gabriel Pickle that she was allowed 8 days as armorer and the rest of her time was to be spent as props assistant. Pickle wrote to Gutierrez-Reed in an email that, quote, it has been brought to my attention that you are focusing far more on armor and not supporting props as needed, unquote. In the same message, Pickle said that the, quote, production and AD team have seen twice that there was a shotgun left unattended after a scene, unquote, and that there needs to be some type of check-in, check-out system put in place immediately. Gutierrez-Reed responded that the role of the armorer is, quote, a very serious job, and since we've started, I've had a lot of days where my job should only be to focus on the guns and everyone's safety, unquote. She also said that, quote, there are working guns on set every day, and those are ultimately going to be a priority because when they are not, that's when dangerous mistakes can happen, unquote. In another conversation, Pickle instructed Gutierrez-Reed not to conduct firearm training with Baldwin and other cast members anymore. Are you kidding? This has to be one of the most damning statements. It's incredible that a producer of a movie in which actual firearms are being used would think that the people handling those firearms shouldn't be provided with adequate firearm training. This was clearly an accident waiting to happen. I sincerely hope that the family of Helena Hutchins sues the crap out of the movie's producers for placing everyone on set in serious danger of being shot because they saw no value in providing adequate firearm training. They should also sue the producers for not having a full-time armorer on set at all times to ensure that firearms were being properly handled and accounted for. Having someone perform two different jobs on set with two different responsibilities and lowering the priority of the more safety-critical job is extremely irresponsible. James Bowles, an attorney representing Gutierrez-Reed, said in a statement that the report concluded that his client, quote, was not provided adequate time or resources to conduct her job effectively despite her voiced concerns, unquote. The statement reads, quote, as we have stated before, had anyone from production called Hannah back into the church before the scene to consult with her, this tragedy would have been prevented, unquote. Environment Cabinet Secretary James Kenney said, our investigation found that this tragic incident never would have happened if Rust Movie Productions, LLC, had followed national film industry standards for firearm safety. This is a complete failure of the employer to follow recognized national protocols that keep employees safe. I highly doubt that production of the movie Rust will ever be completed given what occurred. But if the studio does complete the production and actually puts this film out, I don't intend to ever watch it. Thank you for watching today, and thanks to everyone who has subscribed to our YouTube channel. We appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button below, and please feel free to share a comment. If you would like to see more of our videos in the future and help support this channel, please subscribe right now by clicking on the red subscribe button below. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter by clicking on the links in the description. Until next time, this is Out Loud Geek.